Okay, so we've drawn up a detail, and you'll in the workforce you'll find that although we use Revit, and it's not a relatively new program, it's been around for a number of years, a lot of manufacturers haven't updated their product brochures and downloads with Revit components. And as such, we've got to use AutoCAD stuff within Revit itself. Now, there are some ins and outs about doing it, and we'll just show you how to, in this video, how to actually make up some detailing using some downloaded content from somewhere else. So we'd actually start using the content directly in Revit, or sorry, inside the detail views. We want to actually make up a drafting view before we start. Okay, so we just go to the View tab. We can come here and we say, give me a drafting view. Okay, and I'm going to call this drafting view CAD Imports, and I can make it 1:1 or 1:5. I'm not really consuming the scale. And there it will be there. Once I've got this drafting view open, you know about drafting views, they're just basically one big piece of paper. Okay, so I'm going to make a little circle just so I've got some location and a bit of scale. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually insert into this project a AutoCAD drawing. Okay, so you guys should have linked in your site survey, but in this case we're going to actually reuse some of the data a bit more. So we're going to import some of the CAD. Okay, so we're going to import. I'm just going to go to my documents because I've already got a file downloaded. Okay, so this is a file from Vantage. Okay, it's going to preserve the colors. I might actually make them all black and white. It's going to be pre-drawn in millimeters, and let's just go open. Now, fingers crossed it's loading it all up, and it'll come in quite nicely. Now, there are some restrictions on how big the files can be that you load into Revit. They have to be less than, I believe, 10,000 lines in them. That's the main thing. Now it's processing this, and then what it's done is it's dumped it into this view. Now when we look at this, we can have a look at the file here, and first off we can just hover over something. So I hover over this detail here, and it's looking pretty good. Hover over this detail, and there's some problems here. Okay, so we've got to check what we've inserted is correct. And along with checking, we've got to make sure the size is correct as well. Now this should be 100mm shop front. So I'm going to take my little measuring stick, and the first thing I'm going to do is take a measurement and making sure that it's 100mm long. Okay, so I know that I've got it the correct scale. I know that I've got to do a little bit of editing here. Now when we use it, we can't crop one of these little views. Well, in essence, got to explode this AutoCAD drawing and then change some of the entities. So to do that, we select our CAD import. Once we've selected it, we've got some little options here of how we can alter it. And what I'm going to do is to start off with just a partial explode. Okay, once it's done a partial explode, I can delete some elements that I don't want. Okay, it might only just want the jam and the sill detail, or these three here. So I'm just going to delete the ones that I don't want. And then how about the text as well? I can select a piece of text, come to my sunglasses, and how about I isolate that category. I can delete the elements that I don't want, and then I can reset it. Okay, now, as I have a look at that, there are some elements there. There's something a bit wrong here, and there's something a bit wrong here. Now, some of these elements are still little components. So what we've in essence got to do is we've got to explode these down so they're just lines. And then we can edit them a lot easier in Revit. So again, let's select all these elements. In this case, I want to use my filter. So choose those elements. Or I can select one at a time and go full explode. Full explode. And the most typical option that happens is it says Revit can't draw some of the items, and you've got the option to delete them. Don't want that. I don't want that. Okay, so I've exploded these elements. Oh, there's a couple more there that I've got to do. Okay, and then once I've done that, I can kind of say, well, yep, that detail's looking pretty good. I've just got to touch it up a little bit. So in this case here, I might have to do some minor touching up. Okay, and then once I've actually done that, how about I select all those lines and I see what layer they're on. Okay, so they're on a layer called APL joinery. Now, that's a special layer that has come in the CAD file, but what we want to do is we want to move them to one of our Revit ones that we've already got there pre-set up. So in this case, I'm going to move it to medium lines. Once I move it to medium lines, that will be the thickness that it prints out with. Okay, so from there I can say, look, I might want to delete some of these little pieces of indicating some bits of glass here. Okay, and that's kind of starting off pretty well. Now, I might want to make a component out of this, or if I'll show you the reason why. If I just copy this along, it can be sometimes a bit of a pain if I accidentally select some of the items and just move them up. So sometimes what we want to do is actually make a little, in essence, a little component within Revit of this. What we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of cheat, and we're going to make up a detail group. So how do we do this? We select a selection of lines, primarily detail lines. Once we select those, we can go to the Create panel and create a group. Once we've created a group, we've got to give it a special name. And then it's kind of grouped them together like that. Now what this allows us to do is we can then copy this around as many times as we like, and there's still like a group element. If you want to use it a whole lot of times, we go to the project browser. That little detail group is under the groups folder, subfolder details, and then we can just grab it out and place it in our detail view again. Okay, so that's that one little component there. I'll do the same thing for this one here. So I can select the elements, I can explode them. Select the elements, explode them. Select the elements, explode them. When we get from there, I know from the other ones I've got to delete some of these little lines. In this case here, I've got to add some more in here. And I can then select some of these lines, change it from the layer that it had been brought in from the CAD file, just to a native Revit one, in this case medium lines. Once I've made it and I've changed to my component all the line weights, if I want to reuse it, I can select the items and then create a group of it. Give it a name. and then we can use it elsewhere in our detailing. Okay, so put quite simply, that's how we import a CAD file from a supplier. We explode it down into lines. We delete what we don't want. Once we have those lines, we can then convert them to a native Revit line style, being a medium line, a wide line, a thin line, something like that. And then once we've got that, we can choose to, if we want to, if we're using a lot of them, we can make a little detail group.